Hello and welcome to this week's webinar. My name is Thad Stott and we have Alicia Collins is here with me. Alicia is going to present today on effective online engagement strategies and I will go ahead and turn the time over to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Thad. Hello, everyone. As Thad said, my name is Alicia Collins. I'm currently a doctoral student at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, and I work under Dr. Newford and Thad in the Educational Technology Department. So I have gathered this information for you, just provided some effective engagement strategies that I found among resources to share with you all today. So we'll go ahead and get started. And before I start, I do like to say that the demographics that I'm going to first discuss are specific to the Chicago school and not the other schools. So, of course, if you have anything you want to add, please do so at that time. Okay. The objectives. So for this webinar, we're first going to discuss the current student population and possible needs that they have. And again, I will be discussing the population for the Chicago school. I do apologize for leaving the other schools in the TCS Ed System network out. It'll just be an example as far as for students that we have that we're currently serving. And then we're going to discuss strategies that can be used to engage the online learner. And then throughout the presentation, I'm going to demonstrate how these strategies could be incorporated by using Canvas. So we will go back and forth from my PowerPoint presentation to a Canvas sandbox shell that I have so I can show you kind of how these strategies are used in Canvas. Okay, so first, who are the students? So student demographics at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology as of 2015 looked like this. So the average age of students was 33 years old, 80% female, and 20% male. So as you see, the student ethnicities are also very diverse. So calling for a more differentiated approach when discussing strategies to engage all. Also, with the demographics of TCSPP, it is necessary to cater to the non-traditional learner with strategies that enhance the learning experience, since, again, the overall age is 33. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, a non-traditional student is one who is over the age of 24. And these students also have family and work responsibilities as well as educational objectives. So in terms of the other schools that are part of the TCS Ed System network, you also have students that are over the age of 24, as the online platform pretty much caters to the non-traditional learner. So these statistics may be similar to your school as well. Speaking as a student, strategies that would engage a traditional learner taking an online class would not engage myself. So as a professor or instructional designer, or whatever your position is with the school, it is imperative to know the students being served so that the appropriate strategies can be in place. So generally, student engagement tends to be viewed as the level of interest that students show towards the topic that's being taught. Excuse me. Their interaction with the content, instructor and their peers, and also their motivation to move, to learn and progress through the course. So there are many strategies, as I mentioned, that are focused to increase student engagement. If you were to go on Google and look up student engagement strategies for online learners, you would come up with tons of results. So what I have done is, among the resources that I have found that talk about online student engagement strategies, I've adopted a few that I feel could be used to serve a non-traditional student online, and specifically to the student demographics that I've mentioned here on this slide. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to dive into, excuse me, the first strategy that I want to discuss with you all. So the first one is step into your online learner's shoes. So at TCSPP, and I'm sure at the other schools a part of the TCS Ed System network, you have an introduce yourself discussion board, or some initial discussion board that takes attendance and is treated as a basic way to track that initial attendance of the students in the class. So this strategy focuses on instructors and instructional designers and professors to step into the shoes of their learners to understand more who they are. If professors and instructors ask more meaningful questions in the initial discussion board, then they can learn more about their students in the class and know how best to engage them. This is the first engagement strategy that I wanted to talk about, because you cannot really have a successful engagement strategy unless you know the students that are in your class. Of course, the information that would be gathered in an introduce yourself discussion board, which I have a clip here to the right of an introduce yourself discussion board that I've been a part of as a student. The information isn't used to change any of your learning outcomes or the curriculum. That's usually already determined before the start of the class, but it can be used in discussion boards when discussing relevant topics. So an example of this is usually in the introduce yourself discussion boards, students will talk about their family life, or they'll talk about their work, or what they have done in their lives that they feel is relevant to that class. So as an engagement strategy, I find that if instructors will pull that information into a later discussion board, it will further engage the students. An example is if in a discussion board I mentioned that I work as a social worker, and then later in discussion 3, social work or something that's relevant to that comes up. If the instructor or professor says, oh, well, you know, I like how you mentioned you are a social worker and introduce yourself, and that type of work may inform your opinion on this topic. That is one of the biggest engagement strategies that is not regularly used. As I said before, the introduce yourself or initial discussion board is often forgotten of, and students and instructors just use it as a way to track attendance instead of a real way to engage the students and figure out who they are, what they like, and what their interests are. And I would like to share a class that I was in as a student with a professor who I found used the discussion board in a way that was most effective. So what she did was, as an example of this strategy, she asked the students in the class what your time zone was. And this was so helpful because later in the class we had to do a group assignment. So just her taking interest in where we live and what time zone we are in, and then creating our groups depending on the time zones that you're in a group with someone who has the same time zone as you, I felt that was most helpful. And I felt as a student, from the student perspective, that was one of the major engagement strategies that kept me, that helped me to feel that she cared about the students in the course. So I would like to say, again, with this engagement strategy, stepping into your online learner's shoes and really realizing who the students are in your class, because it is very important to learn who they are and what their needs are, and then use the content material that's already been developed in your class, but use it in a way that is specific to the students that you're serving. That is the first thing that you could do before you add any technology or you add anything additional to your course. So that would be the first strategy that I wanted to mention with you all. The second strategy that I want to discuss, of course, after you learned who your students are and you have taken a personal responsibility to see what their interests are and try to incorporate it some way into your Canvas course, you also want to not forget that social media is very important. So since all students are attached to social media and they use it as their preference for communicating with others in the online classroom can be very beneficial. According to studies in 2011, over 80% of faculty were using some form of social media in their online classrooms. So the example that I'm going to show you today in terms of how to integrate this into Canvas is Twitter. Twitter can be used to continue class discussions or any topic that is relevant to the course. Most students go on Twitter to check the news. They go on Twitter to stay updated with what people are saying and what people are talking about. So what a better tool to integrate into your Canvas shell than Twitter? So the way that Twitter can also be used in a class is you can require students to post or engage on the classroom Twitter page so many times during a course, and you can give them credit for that. Or they can either add to the current discussion or start a new one. You can also use Twitter to find information that is relevant to the course being taught by using hashtags or searches. This Twitter can be seen similarly to a discussion board, except for it's more engaging and it's more interactive, and students feel more comfortable using some of these applications than they do using the LMS. So what I want to do is I want to show you first. I'm going to go to my Canvas sandbox here. And this is not a real class. Again, it's a sandbox, so it's not developed in a way where I would ever deploy it for students to see. It's just a way for me to demonstrate how some of these strategies can be used. So if this is assuming that you already have a Twitter, and so what I recommend using the social media strategy and trying to engage your student learners by using social media is creating a Twitter or a Facebook that is specific to your course. It's very simple, just like as if you were to set up an account for yourself. So what I have done for the sake of time and also for this presentation is I have already set up a fake Twitter account or mock Twitter account for a general psychology class. So what you can do is once you have your Twitter information set up on the Twitter website, you can go into the settings here and you'll notice that the app location is already there waiting for you in Canvas. So if you decide you want to use the LTI tool, you'll go to the settings and then you'll come to the top column here where you see the applications. And you'll see all the apps that can be easily adapted into Canvas, and Twitter is one of them. So if you just type in Twitter, the application will come up, and from here you click and you install Twitter. It's as simple as that, as installing Twitter into your Canvas. Now, of course, what you decide to do with Twitter is where the engagement strategy comes in. So what I've decided to do is I have an example here on my home page of a Twitter that's embedded. So here you'll see what I did for an example. Scroll this back up. Is I did hashtag psychology. So what this Twitter feed is doing is anyone who puts hashtag psychology, their tweets will come up. And this is a continuous stream of tweets that are happening right now. As you see, 4 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes from when they were tweeted. So you can do something as simple as this. If you even have already created a hashtag from previous classes and you want students to be able to see what people are talking about in terms of this topic, you can easily put this Twitter feed right on your page. And then here I have an example of the class Twitter the mock Twitter that I created for this presentation. It's called Example Psych 3. It's not, like I said, it's not a real class, but if you wanted to constantly tweet and have your students to follow you or have your students to engage somehow with whatever it is that you're saying, you could actually have that Twitter feed here as well. It's very safe, and they can always click on any of the links and be taken right to maybe what's interesting to them. And so that makes it really interactive and really engaging, and just another way for them to apply what they're learning to the real world and see that people are really talking about these topics, or it's relevant to not just them. So that's a way that I would say that you could use Twitter. You could also use Twitter in a discussion board, and I'll show you how to put that in there. So again, this is all after you would have, installed the app onto your Canvas. So when you go to like a discussion board or even an assignment, if you want to add Twitter or a Twitter feed, it's very simple to do. So if I wanted to do a discussion board, I would just click the Add Discussion link here. And because I've already added the tool, I'll go up here and I'll see all of the tools and links that I have. And I'll click on this little V thing for more external tools. And I'll see Twitter is right there as an option. So you can click on it here. And from here, you can this is where you'll add in either what your username is for Twitter to pull up that feed, or if you have a hashtag yourself, you can put that hashtag in here. And then you can always report how many tweets you want to show. So it's really easy to embed this information right into the content of your Canvas shell. And even if you're not going to require students to respond to a Twitter page that's set up for the class, it's very easy for them to view the content right in the Canvas shell and not even have to exit. So that's an important tool to help with the engagement and bringing in some more diversity and activity into the classroom. And again, with Twitter, you can add your Twitter, and you can embed the Twitter in anything where you have the link. So you'll always have this toolbar link here for your pages or your announcements or your assignments. So again, even if you're not going to use the Twitter in a discussion board or an assignment, just having it there for your students to see can be very engaging and very exciting at the same time. So that is one that I would recommend. Facebook doesn't have as easily an integration. If you would like to do a Facebook page, that would be something that you would possibly do an external link for, and it would take the students to the Facebook page. So, but all of these things in terms of social media are very good pieces of the puzzle to have in an engaging online course, especially for someone who doesn't want to be in a mundane and very repetitive type of class where you have everything this due on Wednesday, and you know it's a discussion board, and you know it has to be text, and you know you're going to be reading text, and it's nothing else interesting. It can really become very boring, and that's from a student perspective, and you'll only just be going through the motions, and you won't be getting the most out of the learning. And I know as professors and instructors, that is what your goal is to get the most, to produce the most learning that you can. Okay. So that, okay. So that was how you can incorporate social learning activities. And again, I just want to say that you can find tons of relevant information on Twitter. I think people shy away from Twitter, but there's news on the Twitter. People are talking about what's relevant on Twitter. So you can always use hashtags, and those hashtags will kind of filter out things that you don't want your students to be reading on in your Canvas shell. Or again, if you want to be extra safe and you want to make sure that they're only reading the content that you choose, and you can create your own Twitter and embed that into your Canvas shell. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next strategy. So the next strategy I have is create an open, accessible environment for students. So having an open environment is necessary, and it's one of the best engagement strategies to ensure that students have access to each other and their professors. So again, speaking about non-traditional students, access is necessary because of the responsibilities like work and home. Schoolwork may be completed at different times during the day, and also students in different time zones. So having immediate access to professors or to faculty is necessary, but it's not always possible. So having an accessible environment or a space is very important. So a way to incorporate this strategy into Canvas is to use the collaborations tab. That way it is an open forum, and all student questions and answers can be available for all to see. I will show you how to use the collaborations tab in terms of creating an open, accessible environment. But if for any reason people don't want to use the collaborations tab, you can always use discussion board as well to have this open, accessible environment. And what I mean when I say open, accessible environment is having a place where students can constantly come and ask questions, and those questions are visible to all. So again, with non-traditional students, and even if you have traditional students in your course, they may all have the same question, but if there's no open space for them to ask those questions, then you will continue to get the same questions over and over and over again. Whereas if you just created an open space where students can engage with one another, and they can engage with you and ask any questions that they have, then what question someone else in the class might have, I may have had that same question, but instead of first emailing the instructor or professor, I can just check the collaborations tab and see if that question has came up. And the reason why I recommend collaborations over discussion boards is because discussion boards are overly used as it is, right? So most schools, you do one discussion board a week or 2 discussion boards a week. So to get students out of constantly having to use discussion boards, that's why I'm recommending using the collaborations tab for to create this open environment, and also create some diversity than having to use the same thing over and over again. So the collaborations tab is already on the navigational menu. For most, it's hidden or it's grayed out like these others that are below here. And it's very simple. If you want to make this collaborations tab visible, I will show you that. You go back to the settings, and you'll come up here to the course tabs, and you'll go to navigation. And so if it were grayed out, like for example, the files, it would be down here at the bottom. So it's a simple drag and drop. So you just drag and drop it to the top, which you see my collaborations tab is already been put at the top here where the with the items that will be visible for students to see. So once you've done that, you've made it visible for students to access that tab, then you can go back out of the settings, go to your collaborations tab. And again, like I was saying, you want to create a place where students can always ask questions at any point, and everyone in the class can see it. So collaborations are just like Google Docs. So you can see who said what and keep track of that if you need be. And students can always have access to the document and edit it. So that's always really, really great to have. So what I have titled this as is simply questions. You can call it class Q&A, whatever you feel comfortable calling it. But essentially, it's a place to have all the questions that students might have where everyone can see what everyone else is saying. So I do want to say that if you have not already set up your collaborations tab, when you do the initial setup, you will have to first authorize access, and then you'll go through the same single sign-on process with your credentials. And then once you have access, it'll link to Google Docs. Okay? So I have created one here called questions, but for you to create a collaboration, it's very easy. You just click, start a new collaboration, you title it what you want to title it, and then all the people that would be a part of your class, which again, this is a sandbox. I don't have any students in this class. You could drag and drop them into the group, and then they will have access to the document. And I do want to share also that they'll have access to the document through their credentials. So it won't be that they can go in through their Google or Gmail account that's not attached to the school. It'll be their school email account that gives them access to the documents. So in using this collaboration, that might be something that you want to share with your students. So again, very easy. You can, like I said, title it however you choose, and then you can put a description. My description is, if you have questions, please place them here, okay? Or you can write them here, whatever you choose. And so as a student, all they have to do is click that link, and it opens up to the document. Okay, so I have my question is, right? So they can type the question there, and you can see it, and then you can say, hey, and you can respond, and then the document just keeps going on and on and on. And another good thing about using collaborations in Canvas courses or in any online class is so that you can document these questions for the next class. So if I taught this class one time and I had 5 really, really good questions that I'm pretty sure will come up, I can add those questions to my next collaboration for my next class in that's the same class, right? And then students may already have those questions, and they can go in and say, oh, this question's already been asked, and they can already have the information. So it's also a good way to document things that maybe you want to change or things that you want to share with the next students. Because that's always something that's important as well in adjusting course design and development, making sure that those questions are answered and that we're improving in our craft, essentially, okay? So, and again, this is just what I recommend, the collaborations tab, because students know how to use discussion boards, and having to constantly use them, it just loses its effect, and it's not as engaging as, oh, I get to go to do a collaboration this time, something different. But if for any reason you do want to use a discussion board, I'll go here to discussion board and have an example. You can have it set up the same way. Class Q&A is what I have it titled here, and you can leave questions and students can respond, and students can reply and you can respond to their replies as well. The one benefit that I have noticed in using a discussion board over a collaboration is, with the discussion board, you do get the notifications more often than you would with a Google Docs. I know with the discussion board, if you have the app, or if you have the Canvas app on your phone, or you have the Canvas set up where you get those notifications, it'll be more instant than if you use the collaboration. Okay. But again, so engagement is necessary. So the collaborations is one tool that is underused in Canvas and should be, because it can create that open environment that's necessary to engage online learners. Just something different other than what, excuse me, they're already doing. Okay. Jeez, sorry. Okay. And then my last engagement strategy is use a variety of multimedia and modalities. This has to be one of the most important ones after you've gotten down who your students are and how to use a few more extra tools in your Canvas shell. Then throw some multimedia in there. So there are different, you'll have different learners and they all will learn differently. And using a variety of content delivery methods and learning activities will help keep them engaged. So if your course is text-based, consider including images or graphs to clarify concepts, because this can be most helpful. It's nothing less engaging than having to read 3 chapters and then the prompt is also just text and looks just as plain as the textbook that I may have just read. So just as far as for aesthetics, you can make your class just look better as well with using multimedia. And you can also replace some of the text that you have with videos or audio, depending on the topic that you're teaching. And in my opinion, depending on any topic, you can use videos or audio to replace some of that text for the students, because it does make it much more engaging. So small things can drastically improve the learning experience for all of your students. So I'm going to show you an example of a sway that's embedded in a discussion board, and also how to access the Panopto tool and Office Mix tool. I can't show you what the Panopto recording would look like because I don't have access as a student to be able to put Panopto in my sandbox. But Panopto is a great recording application or software that you can use. Panopto also is a pretty easy way to make your course more accessible if you need to, with transcribing what you have, what you're saying in your recording. And it's just something different than a YouTube video. So maybe students aren't familiar with that. And then also with Panopto, since I can't show you, but I can tell you, it's easily embedded into Canvas. So your video will just pop up right there. And it makes it easier than the 2 clicks that the students would have to do to go outside of the Canvas shell to watch a video that you may want to incorporate in your Canvas shell. And for these 3 that I have mentioned here, the Sway, Panopto, and Office Mix, all of these, just like Twitter, are available in the through apps on Canvas. So they are LTI tools that can be easily installed and used to add to the quality of your course. So what I want to do first is show you how Sway looks like. So Sway is through, Office 365, so you'll have access to that. And it's just an awesome tool to create some color and some inspiration for students in your classes. So with Sway, you'll first create your Sway on the Office Sway website. And so once you've created your Sway, which I know we've had webinars on Office Sway and Office Mix in the past, so I'm not going to go into detail on how to get those set up because it will take a little bit longer. But if anyone's interested, I can show you how to. But with Sway and Office Mix, these are things that you'll do outside of Canvas initially, and then you'll just simply embed them. So I just want to show you what they'll look like in terms of a different way that you can display your content or your prompts to the students. So this Sway that I haven't put in that I have put in this discussion board is a Sway that I did as a student. So don't mind what it's talking about. But this will be what it looks like. So you have your prompt here, like let's say the prompt was, we're going to talk about classroom diversity. So, and the prompt for what they were supposed to talk about in their discussion board is in this way. So the students can click over and they'll see, different words, different colors. They'll see different, pictures. So it's just a better way to read a prompt than just a simple text in a Canvas discussion board prompt. So this again is just another way to make it more exciting for the students. They can expand it, they can make it bigger, and also it gets them thinking of different things that they can do with presentations. So not only can you present your prompt using a sway, but you can also require the students to respond creating a sway. That's a great engagement tool as well. And in addition to using sway as a prompt, you can also possibly have students reply using a video, maybe a video response instead of texting a response. And Canvas makes it very easy to record video and upload it as a response. So that could be something that to use multimedia to engage the students in the class. And then I also want to show you that as with these LTI tools, as I said, Panopto and Office Mix, they are LTI tools. So once you've downloaded them through the settings, they will appear right here. So you'll have access to them. So any Panopto recording that you've made, let's say 3 or 4 classes ago, that's housed on in their cloud, the Panopto cloud, you'll have immediate access to it, and you can grab it and you can embed it right here in your discussion board. And the same thing with Office Mix. Office Mix is an add-on tool for PowerPoint, and it's a great way to mix up your PowerPoints and make them more exciting. And you can do polling on Office with Office Mix. You can also create videos. You can add more to your presentation instead of just, if you have lecture slides that you just post on your Canvas, instead of just having them sit there and the students have to just click through all of them, you can use Office Mix to create a more engaging presentation where actually the students can engage with the presentation using Office Mix. So if you have polling and things of that nature on your Office Mix, then the students can click, you can get the results on the Office Mix website. So that's a great tool, as well as Panopto and Sway, that can be used with Office 365. And let's see, and that does conclude my webinar. I know it was kind of short, but I did want to leave time for questions. And also, Thad, if you have anything you wanted to add about the multimedia, feel free. But that does conclude about the very few engagement strategies that I did want to go over. Again, if anyone wants me to show them what Mix looks like or go into Sway some more, I can do so.
Awesome. Thanks, Alicia. We do have a couple questions. And also, I guess in addition to that, to sort of answer Lori's question first, she would like to see some instructor best practices about the kind of posts that engage. And Lori, I think we've touched a little bit on this, and engagement for your students, it really depends on the class and the type of students you have, your demographic, and there's a lot of things to take in consideration. So, but there are some general best practices that work really well, and some of those best practices are, implemented in most of our courses, such as discussions, group projects, even problem-centered approaches to instruction. Alicia had mentioned some tools and strategies, such as Sway, building a Sway presentation. Those types of exercises where the students actually get in and help not only present the information that they've learned to the other students, but also work together and collaborate with each other and do the research. Those types of techniques and strategies, regardless of what the platform is or the tools that you use to inspire that kind of engagement, it really can be up to you on your creativity or and we've seen so many different strategies and approaches, and the ones that specifically that I find to be the best are the group or problem-centered exercises that that really help engage the students in kind of taking ownership of their own instruction and their own learning within the course. That's my opinion though, and there are other instructors who may have found other strategies or other ways that have worked well for them. What about you, Alicia? Have you found any specific strategies or best practices that you've really enjoyed and or that you've seen in some of your courses, or that you may have tried to implement in the past?
No, I mean, I would say that group activities work well, but as I mentioned before, with the example of, stepping into your online learner's shoes and knowing even just their time zone, I think is really important. With group activity, it is beneficial to learn with other people, especially because with online learning, it can be very isolated. Um, but knowing their time zones can make or break a group discussion or a group project, because if you have someone who's 3 hour time difference than it can just make it really challenging, and then it can make it, even if the activity was great, it's gonna be just terrible for everyone, because either we're meeting super early with you or it's super late with me. So I think that, just really knowing who the students are and just paying attention to things like time zone is most important. That really helps with group work. But yeah, I would say group work is great, as long as everyone is aware of how it should go.
Awesome. I'm gonna go. We have a few other questions, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording at this point so that we can have an open discussion. And I'll unmute everybody, and we can continue to stay on for another 15 minutes or so to discuss this and have sort of an open dialogue if everybody is interested in doing that.